Thank you everyone and welcome to the Future Napier Committee. I have the same apologies from Councillor Crown and Councillor Tapani. If I could have a mover, seconder for those. Councillor Simpson, Councillor Bogue, all those in favour please say aye. Hands up, carried. Thank you, Councillor Simpson. Can I call for any conflicts of interest? There being none, we do have a public forum, which was a late addition to our agendas, councillors. So I'd like to welcome Jeremy Smith, the Heritage Manager and General Manager for the Art Deco Trust. And I think we also have Simon Dunn, the Art Deco Trust board member and chair of the Art Deco Property Subcommittee joining us. So gentlemen, if you are there, you are welcome to start your presentation to us. We have 10 minutes, which includes some time for questions, if you could build that into your time frame. So welcome.
Welcome, thank you. Thank you. Mayor Wise, councillors, council staff and members of the public, thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. First, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank councillors and Napier City Council staff, your ongoing partnership and support of the Art Deco Trust. Our relationship dates back almost to the formation of the Trust in the 1980s. We're extremely grateful for the Council's financial support and confidence in our work. The Trust today is the guardian, storyteller and interpreter of Napier's Art Deco era heritage. Our core purpose is the preservation, protection, restoration and celebration of our heritage. We do this in many ways. Through the Robert Mcgregor Heritage Fund, we work with building owners and support their work in the preservation of their Art Deco buildings. With council funding and this Trust's self-generated revenues, we distribute grants to enable owners to achieve their aspirations, which enrich and enhance our city. As a major tourism operator, the Trust has developed into an internationally renowned operation, delivering Art Deco guided walking and vintage car tours, sharing with visitors one of the defining moments in Napier's history and the rebirth of the city following the 31 earthquake. We're supported by over 100 volunteers to deliver our tourism offerings to literally thousands of visitors, and they support our Trust. And we celebrate our era with our annual Art Deco festivals, attracting thousands of visitors from across New Zealand, a celebration of this time in Napier's history against the city's streetscape and Art Deco infrastructure. A major economic contributor to the city, preserving and celebrating Art Deco brings vitality to the city, drives revenue to local economy and engenders civic pride and prosperity. Today, we'd like to take and present to the Council an opportunity and partnership, which we believe is a win-win-win for the City of Napier, the City of Napier community, the Trust, and tourists and visitors to Napier. The opportunity would see the Trust continue to be the guardian, storyteller and interpreter of Napier's Art Deco era heritage, but also become a city builder and placemaker. That opportunity is the Women's Rest in Memorial Square. May I show slide 1, please? That works. An image of the Women's Rest today. Slide 2, please. The redevelopment could see the Women's Rest return to Louis Hay's original 1920s Frank Lloyd Wright-inspired Art Deco design. A companion war memorial to the cenotaph, the Women's Rest was opened on Anzac Day 1926. Damaged in the earthquake, rebuilt, it was the centre of Tin Town. Substantially altered over time, the redevelopment will seek to return the Rest as close to its original design. This opportunity would see the Trust lead the restoration of the Women's Rest, become the custodian of the building, operate the Trust from this location, and operate as a community venue. The Trust believes we have the board and management level experience to lead this project and the network of industry professionals to deliver it. Closed in 2013, various reports have already been undertaken, which will need expansion. Conservation reports for the area have been undertaken, and feasibility and operational plans now need to be developed. The Trust has broad community support for the concept, from the National Council of Women, Historic Places Hawke's Bay, Napier MP, the Honourable Stuart Nash, and the business owners that flank Clive and Memorial Square. We have engaged with the Napier and Taradale RSAs and the Women's Division of the RSA, who support the concept and are now in conversation with their communities. We've socialised the concept with the Trust, volunteers, staff, and our networks. We have broad support here. We have much work to do in advance of any work being undertaken on a restoration. A Category 1 listed building, any plans will require broad stakeholder engagement, including Heritage New Zealand. And of course, Napier City Council, via regulatory engagement, will have the same involvement and insight into the restoration project as it would with any heritage building in the city. Funding for the work is anticipated to come from councils already committed funding the rest, together with government grants dedicated to restoring important heritage and community assets. To proceed with the opportunity and further develop our plans, we seek from council an MOU and an assurance of a long-term lease arrangement. The Trust would lead the project management of the restoration and occupancy of the rest. Once in occupation, the Trust commits to manage and operate the rest for our activities and also as a community venue. We seek assurance from the council at your earliest convenience so we can advance our plans and get this work started. We acknowledge that council staff have recently commenced work on the restoration, but suggest this will include years of preparatory work, consultation, which will see the rest continue to be empty. Closed in 2013, now 9 years later, it remains untenanted. The Trust wishes to expedite the work so the rest can be restored and occupied as soon as possible. In the Trust's interest, but also in the interest of the city. Once occupied, we will bring vitality to Lower Emerson Street and together with other business in the area, connect this part of the city through visitation, engagement and public use. For the past 2 years, the Trust has been financially supported by the government's Strategic Tourism Asset Protection Programme, which has greatly assisted the Trust with the closure of the international borders and the impacts this had on our ability to generate revenue from tourism. Tourism is coming back, but in what form is unknown. The Trust has commenced work to ensure our long-term sustainability into the future, reviewing our operating model, and the Women's Rest is part of this work, which we wish to progress, but only once we know we can lead the restoration and occupy the building. Leading the work for the Trust is Art Deco board member and chair of the building committee, Simon Dunn. Simon brings to the Trust and this project decades of experience in this type of complex and challenging redevelopment and revitalisation building projects. Most recently in his capacity as portfolio manager for Wallace Development Company, a major partner and investor in the Napier and across Hawke's Bay. Simon.
Thank you, Jeremy. Perhaps if we could remove the slide now, would that be helpful? I might be able to see people then. Thank you. Cool. Thanks very much, Jeremy. Not sure about the decades of experience. It makes me sound very old indeed, but I appreciate the sentiment anyway. I would just like, Jeremy's done a pretty compelling presentation there, I believe, in terms of the opportunity for the Art Deco Trust. And I'd just like to reiterate really that we're very excited about the potential partnership that we can have with the council to actually deliver the Women's Rest as an active community hub for the city. As Jeremy mentioned, it has been closed for 9 years, and this, we believe, is the opportunity for the building to be strengthened and a community asset brought back into active service by the Trust. However, we feel quite strongly that the Art Deco Trust needs to lead the project completely. This will save the respective Napier managers time and they can focus on other important projects. The Art Deco Trust does have the skills to lead and deliver the project for the community. It is a Grade 1 heritage building, and the Art Deco Trust at its core is a heritage organisation. We will be liaising with Heritage New Zealand and the Council's Heritage Planner. The Council's interests, as Jeremy mentioned, are completely protected as any work will require resource consents and building consents in the usual way. However, it is the drive and the commercial nous of the Art Deco Trust Board that can bring to this project that will deliver it in a timely manner. As Jeremy has already explained, within 3 weeks of our initial meeting with the Mayor and the CEO, we've already spoken to and received lots of support from stakeholders. We ask for the council to resolve a memorandum of understanding to be entered into between the Art Deco Trust and the council to allow the Art Deco Trust to occupy a refurbished and strengthened building on a long lease, and that the Art Deco can spearhead and deliver a project for the people of Napier. So thank you very much, Jeremy, and I'm happy to answer your questions if we can.
Thank you very much, Jeremy and Simon, for your presentation, and commend you on the work that you have been doing with the Trust so far to bring this to us. We'll open up for questions. I'll start with Mayor Wise.
Thank you, and through the chair, and not really a question per se. First of all, thank you very much for your presentation, Jeremy and Simon. You actually covered off any of the questions that I would have had with, for you, in particular around what engagement has already been undertaken with those key stakeholders in the wider community. And you've clearly been very busy over the last few weeks getting out and about and talking to the people that you needed to talk to. So I just wanted to say that I'm incredibly excited about this opportunity. I think that this could be a great partnership between council and one of our, local trusts to do something really vital on behalf of our whole community. So thank you for approaching us about this, and I will hand over to the councillors who may actually have some questions, but thank you once again.
Thank you. Councillor Crystal.
Through the chair, just like Mayor Wise, it's not so much a question, but in watching your presentation and what I've heard before, I'm reminded of after the earthquake, when the bureaucracy was taken away and it was led by a few people to rebuild the city in 2 years, and it shows you what can happen if you get out of the way. So I think that that's a fantastic idea, and also remind you that everyone that the building is actually a war memorial for the World War I soldiers, and it's a very significant part of our Napier history. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea.
Thank you, Councillor Crystal. Councillor Bogue.
Yes, I fully support this proposal, and as a member of the National Council of Women, we of course have looked very carefully at it and supported in principle this partnership between council and the Art Deco Trust. There is a desire that has been expressed in our conversations, National Council of Women's conversations with the Art Deco Trust, that we are hoping that there'll be a Napier-based outreach for some services from the Heretaunga Women's Centre that would be viable and possible for counselling, perhaps in some courses. So I just want to know, is that consideration going to be included in the document that you sign with the council, some consideration of those wishes of the National Council of Women?
Yeah, absolutely. If I may answer that, Councillor Berg, yeah, we're very keen for this to be a community-based project, and taking in all of those stakeholders' interests and providing a venue where they can meet. The Art Deco Trust itself only needs a small portion of the actual building in order to occupy its functions, but we see it very much as a custodian and the enabler, really, to actually organise events for other people. You need a head tenant, I think, to lead that, so it doesn't become a drain on council, and that's where the Art Deco Trust see themselves as being that facilitator. So absolutely, we really want to bring it back to be a real community asset.
Excellent, thank you.
Councillor Brown, and we might make this our last question, councillors.
Thank you, and it's very similar to Councillor Bogue's question. So it's more, so there is a little bit of feasibility work that needs to be done to work out what community organisations can go in there. Is it your expectation that the Art Deco Trust is in a position to be able to lead that work, or would you like council to do that and sort of give you the results, I suppose?
We'd very much like the Art Deco Trust to lead that. We've got a good engagement with stakeholders. We'd like to continue that. Barbara Arnott, who's our chair, is very well connected with a lot of these organisations and has done a lot of the groundwork here. And we see that very much as the strength of the trust to be actually be able to get on and do things quickly and have that engagement. So we'd very much like to continue that process, really. Thank you.
Thank you. I have seen Councillor Wright, are you reasonably quick?
Always.
Yes.
No, I just wanted to remind everyone, as I had before, that we do have a service agreement with the Art Deco Trust, and a lot of the outcomes that the council wishes to achieve with our partnership with the trust in this new venture can be captured within our service agreement that we already have with them. And so I think that any concerns we have can easily be addressed through that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Thank you very much, Simon and Jeremy, for joining us. If you are available to stay available, just foreshadowing that we may have some discussion of this as a minor matter later on in the agenda. If one or both of you were available, that could potentially be helpful to the discussion later on, but I will leave that with you if you are available. Thank you. Right, I will move on in our agenda. Our next is Mayor Wise. Are there any further announcements by yourself?
Nothing from me.
Thank you. No announcements by myself other than making a call for minor matters not on the agenda. So I would like from the chair to raise a discussion of our public forum in minor matters. And I am required to advise everyone who is watching, as well as elected members, that a minor matter item will be discussed. However, the meeting may not make a resolution, decision or recommendation about the item, except to refer it to a subsequent meeting for further discussion. So that's a requirement in our standing orders to make that disclaimer. And I'll make the call if there are any other minor matters from elected members. I'm not seeing any there. Now, I know we do have a management announcement, but that is being made by a member of your management team. Richard, do we have Rachel available?
Through you, no, I'm afraid not. She's just been called away to attend to one of her children who's had a bit of an accident. She may be back later, and perhaps we could suspend the timing of the management announcement till when she's back, and I'll let you know, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Richard. I'm happy to defer the management announcements, and we will come back to that at the end of the items on the agenda. Could I ask for a mover of confirmation of minutes from Thursday, the 10th of February 2022 be taken true and correct? I have a mover in Councillor Taylor, seconded Councillor Crystal. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. And we will move on to item 1 in our agenda, which is our resource consent activity update. And I'd like to welcome Luke Johnson, who is presenting this to us. And councillors, just noting that we have a slight addition to our standing paper here with the key account manager noting as well. Welcome, Luke.
Kia ora, everyone. Yes, as Deputy Mayor Brosnan indicated, I do have an update on the key account manager framework that's been recently implemented here at council. But first, I'll give you an update, albeit brief, on the resource consenting activity that we've seen over the last 6-week period. As you can see from my report, we have had a very steady or a slight decline in the number of applications received in the last 6-week period, down from 42 the same time last year to 34. Whilst we have had that decline in the number of applications submitted, it's given the planners a good opportunity to process the consents at hand, and also to address quite a large number of resource consent inquiries that they've been receiving. As you can see from the summary table, I don't have any further updates on any of the applications that have been previously addressed in the last committee report, though I do understand that there may be some questions that you may have in relation to some of these existing applications, which I will invite now prior to discussing the key account managers framework with you.
Thank you, Luke. Happy to take questions in two parts. So, Councillor Price.
Thank you. I'm referring to the 115 Carlisle Street expansion of existing car yard. Can you talk me through the application? What has been the hold up with the progress through to the next stage of assessment? It's about 2 years old, and talk me through what the process looks like now to have the section 95 assessment notification decision made. Thank you.
Through the chair, thanks, Councillor Price. Look, I wouldn't suggest that there's been a hold up as such. The processing of an application with this sort of complexity requires us to engage with a number of external consultants from the applicant's side of things, and to also engage experts in these fields from council's perspective as well. So early on in the application stage, there was information requested from the applicant. We had geotechnical engineers, landscape architects engaged from both parties, and they were required to go through a process to reach a resolution on some of the more major matters related to this application, which obviously was the extensive cut that's proposed, the stability of that cut, and also the landscape and visual assessment and the impacts that may have, on the environment and also on the surrounding residents. So the process has been drawn out simply due to the extent or the complexity of these two matters. We have been working quite closely with the applicant's experts in addition to our own. We're now in a position where we're expecting some final information to be submitted by the applicant this week, at which point we're then able to consider everything that we have and make a determination on whether or not we consider that under Section 95 of the Act, notification is considered necessary.
Thank you. I look forward to getting a reply from the person concerned saying it's been dealt with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Just building on your answer there around that Section 95 assessment for that particular application, are you expecting that by the time we see this report come through committee again, that a 95 decision will be made one way or another?
Yes, through the chair. I believe we will have a determination made on that process by the next committee meeting.
Thank you, that's helpful. I'll just open up to elected members if there's any further questions on the resource consent update part of the paper. Otherwise, we'll pass back over to Luke to lead us through the second part of the resolution. Thank you, Luke.
So by way of introducing the key account management team, this is a recent initiative that's been put forward. It's been formed for the reason to provide a higher level of customer service and strategic alignment from council's perspective to developers within Napier. The need for this cross-council advice and guidance has been identified through a number of major applications that we've received, where there have been some hurdles and some time constraints, put on those applications, and consequently we've been formed as a group which is made up of 5 existing council officers: Georgina King, the team leader of City Design and Urban Renewal; Rita Dupree, the team leader of Development and Standards; Sophie Elliott, the Major Development Lead; Flo Lincoln, the Strategic Planning Lead, and myself. I suppose I'll pass over to Fleur and Rita to discuss 2 projects that we're currently working on. One being the Riverbend Road development, which is a fast track application, which is with central government, and also the Mission Hills development, which Rita will discuss. So yeah, look, it's early in its stages, but we've found that since we've been working together, the process has proved to be quite rewarding for developers, to have a single point of contact, if you will, with council. So I guess we take the opportunity to field their questions and then go out and engage with the respective council employees to get as much feedback as quickly as possible and have that returned to the responsible key account manager to provide to the developer. So I'll now pass on to Fleur Lincoln, who will give you an update on the Riverbend Road development, and then Rita Dupree for the Mission Hills. Thank you.
Thanks, Luke. Hi, everyone. So yeah, I'm the key account manager for the Riverbend Road development, and the development partners are made up of Tawanui Developments Limited, K3 Properties Limited, and Mana Ahuriri Holdings Limited. So the development team will be giving a presentation to council at a workshop on the 31st of March. So only a few days away now. So I'm not going to go into too much detail here. But essentially the development is at 195 and 215 Riverbend Road and 20 Waterworth Ave. And at a high level of the application is for a comprehensive residential development, which essentially creates a new suburb for Napier. There's quite a difference here in terms of how it's going to be processed from what the normal process is. So the application was submitted under Section 20 of the COVID-19 Recovery Fast Track Consenting Act 2020 for the proposed development to be referred to an expert consenting panel for consideration. So effectively this makes council a submitter in the process as opposed to the processing authority. But despite this, it's within both of our interests to ensure that the development delivers everything that a new community needs. And so we've been working really closely with the development team to provide them with the information that they require. Feedback on taking it through the CAMS process to date has been really positive. The one point of contact for the development team, they've said that's been really great. They know exactly who to go to when they want information. And they've said that all of the information requests have come through in a really timely manner. So far so good. And yeah, it's hopefully the sort of feedback that we're getting on the CAMS model continues. Cool, thanks. Rita, do you want to take that away for yours now?
Hi, I'm Rita. I'm the key project manager for the Mission Hills. I don't have an update as yet because we've just kicked off discussions. At this stage, there was a few high-level discussions, especially with our roading team. And basically all is to find common ground where what council wants, what the developer wants to see, sort of what the outcomes is that council want to achieve. So before they go away and design anything, we had that fairly high strategical discussions at this stage. I know that we've booked a meeting for next week for the rest of infrastructure, and hopefully in a month's time, I will be able to give a better update from where we're at with the Mission Hills.
Thank you, Rita and Fleur. So I just wanted to just touch on, obviously, as you can see, there's quite a substantial amount of work that's gone into these two recent projects from, I guess, the planning perspective, which includes urban design and the policy team, and also the infrastructure team. This collaboration between us has really allowed us to sort of move forward and identify these major projects and provide, this really high standard of service to the developers. And so far that the feedback has been really good. So it's something that we're continuing to do and to invite new developments that meet the relevant thresholds into this process. And I think it's going to be a really positive thing for Napier City.
Thank you very much, Luke. And before I move to questions, I see I do have some from elected members. I just wanted to offer Sophie or Georgina an opportunity if either of them would like to speak to their role in the key account manager process as well. Thank you for taking the time to be here, ladies. So, Georgina.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just really wanted to say that this has been a really positive change for us within council, and having the 5 of us, and Catherine Hunt is also involved, helping us with all our administration. And it's just been, it's really been quite a positive shift in also the communication internally, but as Fleur and Rita have mentioned, how the developers are working with council. So from my perspective, it's all thumbs up. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I don't really have much else to add. I think most things have been covered off. However, yeah, my feedback from developers has been also very positive towards this move. So nice to hear some positive feedback for councils.
Thank you, Sophie, and to the team. It's great to see you all there implementing what is, I'm sure, a really good process for our sort of significant projects. So I'll move on. We've got some questions. Councillor Bogue.
Yes, thank you very much. I've got a question for Fleur and perhaps Luke about the workshop on the 31st of March about the Riverbend Road project, which, you know, is very exciting. There's a lot of interest out there in the public, and I understand the workshop as it's organised is for councillors and councillor staff. And I'm wondering, can some of or all or some of that information be made available to the public as well? Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm happy to take this one. Yeah, so we've worked really closely with the development team around the messaging that they want to have to the public. We're aware that, you know, this is their application and, you know, I guess they're in charge of this development. And so we want to make sure that, you know, the messaging that we council gives to the public is consistent with the messaging that they have. So what we've asked for them to do is to provide us with an information package that we can provide to you, to councillors, to our senior management team, and we can put on our website to make sure that the messaging is consistent across the board. So that's an agreement that we've made, and they are in the process of putting that together.
Brilliant. So I assume that our workshop will get the rundown on this package and what it all means and answer our questions before we go out to the public.
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely ask them that question. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Fleur and Councillor Bogue. If there's no further questions, could I ask for a mover of the officer's recommendation to note the report and the change in the key account management structure? I have a mover in Mia Wise and a seconder in Councillor Taylor. Mia Wise, did you wish to speak?
Thank you, through the chair, and just to say I think that this is a great initiative. I have had feedback from developers in the past that it would be really good if they had a primary point of contact within council to help navigate and facilitate their projects. So a fantastic move, and I look forward to it rolling out and hearing how it's assisting both council and developers with some of these really vital projects that we're undertaking throughout the city.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Oh, I just agree with the Mayor. I think it's a great new structure, so yeah, well done.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Did any other members wish to speak? There being none, I'll put the resolution. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, Luke, and to the team, Georgina, Fleur, Rita and Sophie, and Catherine. Wish you all the best as you move forward with that and look forward to seeing the results.
Thank you.
Right, we'll move on to our last item on the agenda, the Dog Control Bylaw Policy Statement of Proposal, and we'd like to welcome Paulina Wilhelm to present and introduce this paper to us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The purpose of this report is to present a revised dog control bylaw and dog control policy. And together with this is the statement of proposal to be we're seeking your adoption to release to the public. So late last year, we identified some issues with the bylaw, dog control bylaw, raised by a few stakeholders. So we got into an investigation and a meeting with the key internal stakeholders as well as some of the external stakeholders to identify those issues. And we also conducted some research in terms of the dog complaints that the complaints received and any issues with monitoring, etc. Those were discussed with you at the workshop on the late last year, the 2nd of December. We presented the outcome of this research, and today we're presenting you with a revised bylaw and policy. So just to be clear, there's no major changes on the dog control bylaw. It still covers all the deals with all the nuisance and the issues that the dog control policy and bylaw is meant to deal with. But there hasn't been some main improvements to these documents, and I would like to touch base on those before I accept some questions. So the first thing is strengthening the nuisance section of the dog control bylaw. It wasn't clear how it applied to private areas and public areas, so that area has been revised and clarified. And one of the main changes that I can highlight is the dog access areas. In the current dog control bylaw, we used to have 4 areas identified. One was the dog exercise areas, the prohibited areas where dogs were not allowed, and there were 2 control areas. One control area which was on lead, and one control area that was off lead. And that created some ambiguity in terms of what we would require or not, and for enforcement as well. So to simplify this, in the new dog control bylaw, we are proposing to retain the dog prohibited areas, to retain the dog exercise areas as off-lead exercise areas, and to have a dog control area, which is an on-lead area. So that really is very clear to the public. Anything that is not prohibited or exercise off-lead becomes a control area. And the last change to the bylaw is just the simplicity in wording, some more clarification, avoiding repetition with the Dog Control Act, which we don't need in the bylaw, and also some alignment with the Hastings dog control bylaw. So we talked with the regulatory manager in Hastings District Council, and we're proposing some alignment as well with their bylaw for consistency across the region. So that is really what we're presenting to you today.
Thank you, Paulina. I'll open it up. We have questions from Councillor Mcgregor.
It's just through the chair. I noticed on one of the maps, it has the Lagoon Farm as, I think, a dog on leash area. And the way I see Lagoon Farm currently is it's private property. It has animals running around it, and it's covered by a health and safety plan that doesn't actually let people on there without reasonable cause and probably meeting with the farm manager. So by putting it in here, it sort of indicates to me that I could take my dog for a walk through the farm, which I don't think is very practical or right under health and safety. And secondly to that is I was the farm manager and I was using dogs, or a transport truck came in and he was using dogs. It would also indicate that those dogs would have to be on leash, which wouldn't be practical at all. So is it possible to have the farm removed and probably in red in the prohibited area, and just the track around the outside available for dog walking and exercising?
Through you, Chair, yes, that is correct, Richard. The bylaw applies to the public area, so only to the track. So we're not indicated that we're going to allow dogs on the private property, which is the farm area. So I'll make sure that the map, it was just to show that because anything that is not prohibited or exercised on off the lead areas are control areas in a public arena. So it was mainly for the purpose of showing, but I can clarify to you that it's just related to the path, the cycle path.
Okay, and just secondly to that, so perhaps the Taradale councillor could assist me. I'm looking at the Dobell Reserve. That at the bottom there's some information, but I think throughout the reserve, I think they run sheep as lawnmowers, for a better term, and it seems to be sort of no man's land there. Should that be prohibitive or on leash?
Through you, Chair, as well, we discussed this with the manager of Park and Reserve, and it was identified that the area that we're proposing to be off lead is the area that is currently separated through a fence from the area where the sheep roam. So there shouldn't be an issue in that sense.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And before I move on to the next question, Paulina, I think that was a really good point by Councillor McGregor around the essentially the hashing and the maps of the whole areas. And I just wonder if that could potentially form part of the footnote on the maps as well, that overlaying that area isn't intended to indicate areas of use as such, but that they, as you say, retain on-path access only. So I'll leave that with you, but I think that was a really good point. Councillor Mawson.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair. Pauline, just one question. On page 19, or the West Shore map that goes through into Bayview there, it's just got off-lead exercise area between April to September. I'm just checking, is that to take into consideration the Godwit breeding season?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. Yeah, so to avoid dogs when there is nesting season.
And I appreciate that we did have through the chair, I appreciate we did have a presentation by the Godwit's protection people. And I'm just wondering, has there been anything else done, or is that pretty much what was there in the first instance? I appreciate there was some issues with signage and stuff. Has any of that been ironed out at all?
Yes, through the chair, yes, that's correct. Once we release the bylaw and we adopt the final bylaw, we together with that would go the revision of the signage and how we make sure that everybody understands how the bylaw is going to be applied.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Councillor Bogue, followed by Councillor Crystal.
Just a little correction for the last point. It's the dotterels, not the Godwits. It's the protecting dotterels in that area, and I think it's great that that's been put in. Thank you.
Good clarification. Thank you, Councillor Bogue. Councillor Crystal.
Through the chair, thank you for this. As a dog owner, it's always really good to know where you can and can't go. But so I just have a question around Ahuriri Estuary, and I'm looking at the yellow on lead stripy bit. So just for clarification, because it's a little bit confusing, it seems to be that you can go down the old estuary towards the bridge, but not across the bridge, but then you can go on the other side of the bridge. Can someone clear that up in the map?
Through the chair, yeah, I'll have a look at that and make sure that that there is access all along that pathway that is highlighted there. That's the intention, to be on the lead in that pathway. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Paulina.
Thank you, Councillor Crystal. Paulina, could I take some guidance from you? I'm just wondering if you would need a slight amendment to the resolution for minor amendments to the maps as a result of the discussion today. Would that be helpful?
Yes, that would be helpful, definitely.
Thank you. So governance, if we could please add a new E, note minor amendments to the maps following committee discussion. And of course, noting for councillors that this will come back through Her Worship's council meeting as well. So that should be tidied up for the year.
That's fine.
Thank you. If I have no further questions or discussion, I ask for a mover of A with the new E. I'm not sure if anyone requires that E on screen. It's reasonably self-explanatory. I have a mover in Councillor Crystal and a seconder, Councillor Wright. Thank you. Councillor Crystal, would you like to speak?
Just quickly to say, you know, it's really good to clear some of these issues up, and I know a lot of people are very, their dogs are a very important part of their life, and it's really good to have this bylaw in place and looked at regularly. So.
Thank you, Councillor Crystal. Councillor Wright, do you have anything to add? There not being any further speakers, I will put the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, Paulina.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, before we move on to our minor matters, I would just like to welcome our management comments, management announcements back. So I'd like to welcome Rachel Bailey. Councillors will recognise the change in surname from Rachel Horton, and we congratulate you on your recent marriage.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. I just wanted to give you a little update on the two projects, the Napier Assist project and the parking meter upgrade project. I'll start with the Napier Assist project, and I wanted to introduce Dan Hicks. I think he's coming online. Dan, if you're there, can you turn your video on? Oh, there he is. So this is Dan Hicks. Dan is our newly appointed team leader for Napier Assist, and he's really responsible for a lot of the progress that we're making over the last weeks and months. And the progress is going really well. You may recall that, you know, your decision back in September was to implement the service in 2 stages. And the first stage was CCTV upgrade, so that we had to establish that as a priority. The current network within the Napier Safety Trust was end of life, and there was some urgency to maintain that network and current service levels. And then stage 2 of that was to establish our foot patrols as soon as possible after we had the CCTV network up and running. And ensuring that the CCTV network was established also ensures that our patrols can really target problem areas and that their safety is enhanced by having CCTV support. So, and you may also recall that full maturity of the service was programmed across 5 years, with sort of funding being available in stages over that time. So accordingly, our focus has been on stage 1, and we've made really good progress with the Napier Safety Trust. We're working with their contractors, Advanced Security, to bring all of their network over, and that'll be up and running by 1 July. And we are recruiting right now for staff to undertake that monitoring work. And we're also trying to fast track stage 2 as much as possible. Again, we've commenced recruitment, and the applications for those roles close on the 17th of April. If you know of anyone, please spread the word and get their applications in. And the reason that we're sort of trying to fast track stage 2 as well is because we can really appreciate that the retailers and, you know, other stakeholders have been waiting for this, and they're anxious to get the service up and running. And, you know, we want that too. And so we're trying to work quickly to get that happen. But there are some constraints, and, you know, timing is dependent on a number of factors, but it's mostly reliant on recruiting the right people and training them to a level where, you know, we can be satisfied that they can carry out the role effectively and safely. And I'm sure you can appreciate, you know, that safety is a key element to this sort of role and our duty of care to people in that regard. And the other dependency, of course, is funding that we we will grow the service as the funding develops over that 5-year period, and building towards that full maturity. But while these are dependencies, I'm really confident that we're on track to meeting the stages as you've instructed last year, and we will definitely have our CCTV up and running on the 1st of July, if not some patrols very soon after. So in terms of the parking meter upgrade, this project was deferred to May. The implementation, the supplier had production delays due to COVID. So at this stage, it will happen in May. May for the CBD and June for Taradale. But leading up to this in April, we will be starting our communications with the public. So you'll start to see and hear comms going out, letting the community know that the change to parking meters is imminent. The meters will be in the customer services and libraries areas for people to go in and practice on. We're training staff in those areas to be able to give them support and advice about how to do it. And so all of that comms plan that you looked at last year is all starting to kick in. So that's where we're at with those two projects, and it's just a very quick update, but were there any questions that anyone had about either?
Thank you, Rachel. Do you wish for Dan to make any comments?
Yeah,
joined as well.
Dan, are you still there? How's it going for you, Dan, in this role?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, it's been going really, really well. So just a quick introduction, I guess, for everyone. I've come from a police background and born and bred in Napier, though, so really, really passionate about helping ensure the safety of everyone in Napier. So that's why this was a great project that I wanted to be a part of. I'm not sure if everyone else is already aware of it, but we have secured a lease in Dunvegan House for the team as well, for Napier Assist. And so I guess the frontage of that building, the corner of that building is going to start having window decals and whatnot put on it. And so it's going to align with the other part, the customer services part of Dunvegan House. So I guess people will see that start to happen, and that will give you a good indication that the wheels are well and truly in motion.
Thank you, Dan. Do I have any questions of staff from members or any comments on that management update?
Yes, I have a question, Deputy Mayor Brosnan. Just if I could just have an indication of how many will be in the team for the new employees, and is there a male, female, ethnicity or whatever balance there? Are there any prerequisites in that area? Thank you.
I think the total numbers for full maturity, Maxine, are around 12. Is that right, Dan? I think in total. And we haven't yet, we've got the vacancies is open, and we've received, I think, maybe a handful of applications at this point. So we haven't appointed anyone yet, so we can't tell you what the sort of makeup of the team is, but we're keen on getting a really good mix. We're keen on getting people who are really passionate about their community, may be working in their community already, and can really connect with the public and the retailers and the sorts of people that they'll be dealing with. So we're really open to a broad range, if you like, and getting some good diversity in the team. Yeah.
Thank you, Rachel. All right. Thank you very much for your update, team. Much appreciated. So that was our management update. We will move on to our final matter to be discussed, which is minor matters. Just a reminder to councillors that we are able to discuss and potentially refer this matter of the Art Deco Trust proposal through to a further committee or for a paper but we can't make a decision, recommendation, or resolution. So that is the stage where we're at. I just wonder if I could ask our Chief Executive, Steph, if you're here, maybe it might be worth making some comments from a staff perspective as well around what's been happening to date.
Kia ora, Deputy Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. So discussions have been underway with the Art Deco Trust based on the concept that has been presented to you today, and most of those conversations have been around the matters such as the feasibility study, the potential heritage status, a conservation plan, and the building itself and what their requirements might be. That said, it has been difficult at times to fit into the Art Deco's Trust schedule. They had a number of matters that they needed to attend to, so we'll just continue to work with them. However, at this stage, we haven't been obviously in the position to bring a paper to council. However, at this stage, a number of those preliminary discussions have been undertaken. I hope that covers it, Deputy Mayor. Happy to continue the discussion and see what future recommendations come out from the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. I wonder, councillors, if it would be worthwhile if we started the discussion with any questions that we might have. I note that we still have Jeremy, thank you, here with us as well, which could be a helpful resource for any questions we have, and noting our own councillor Wright as council's representative, I think, as well on the trust. So we have some knowledge there that we can pull on for the discussion. So feel free to let me know if you would like to kick off. Councillor Mcgregor, thank you.
Just through the chair. I'm just wondering if the Art Deco Trust have a time frame that an ideal time frame that they'd like to work to, if all went well.
Just clarifying, Councillor Mcgregor, is that kind of a time frame for making an agreement with council of some sort, or are you talking about future works?
Well, for them to be in the building, if that's a decision made. I mean, have they put a time frame on what they'd like to see? If they're still online here, give or take red tape.
Thank you, Councillor Mcgregor. Jeremy, are you able to speak to that?
Yes, a working timetable, 12, 18, 24 months. And then once the work is scoped, then you'll get a much better understanding of how long that feasibly will take, understanding current challenges in the building construction industries. That's roughly what we'd be looking at.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, so I'm a member of both National Council of Women and the Hawke's Bay Heritage Places, Historic Places, and both of those organisations, as Art Deco Trust have said, see this as a real win-win opportunity. I think the one area sort of that needs to be ironed out for me is around how we influence the other activities that go in there, and Councillor Wright's already mentioned that we've got the service agreement and the potentially a lease agreement if we were to go down this path. And I just wondered the appropriateness of having the wording specific to the other activities being, so for example, consulting with a group like the National Council of Women on that wording. Does that make sense? So in terms of using them as a key stakeholder when we're putting our controls around, or our aspirations around what the space is used for, can we take the wording, or is it inappropriate because it's a legal document?
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I think that's a really good matter for discussion. And if we get to a point today where we are referring a future paper through to committee, I can see Steph's nodding there that that's a matter that we can have brought back to us as well around how that wording might work to enable, you know, other uses of the building as well, rather than, and I think that the trust itself talked about a head tenancy style arrangement where that could be managed. Right, I don't have any other hands up as such yet. So I suppose just from my perspective,
my hand was up. Oh, but you can go first.
No, you're fine, Mayor Wise.
Thank you, and through the chair. I guess this is quite a unique proposition that's being put to us in terms of allowing an external organisation to work in partnership with us and essentially take the lead on the process. So I would be really keen to hear from the Chief Executive if there are any barriers to that, if we would need to seek legal advice. Obviously, you know, from my perspective, I think it's a really exciting opportunity to try and remove some of those barriers, but what would we need to do to protect ourselves if we were to sign up for another organisation taking the lead on a project such as this?
Kia ora, Your Worship, and through the chair, I do think that this does require a bit of further investigation, but I do want to reiterate your comments about partnerships and how exciting it is to be discussing our future of women's rest. So we will work really collaboratively with the Art Deco Trust with respect to seeing how we can be really effective in these conversations. Probably a few things for me. Council will recall the feasibility study discussion through the long-term plan. So a few questions about how we work through that well and work through that quickly. And there is some questions that we would probably need to investigate with the Art Deco Trust as to how feasible it is to have the end user as leading that on our behalf. So there's some matters that we would need to resolve there. And I've got Fleur online if you want to go into any further detail, but elected members will also be aware that there is a conservation plan, I think from 2019, about Clive Square in general and the women's rest. So another piece of information that we would need to take into account. All of these things are pretty normal in any sort of partnership approach going forward, but I would just need some further time to be able to answer that question fully. Do see that Fleur has got her camera on and mic off, which is a good indication she has something to add. Thank you, Fleur.
Cool, thanks, Steph, and through Madam Chair. I'm happy to comment on any of the heritage aspects relating to the conservation plan that was prepared in 2019, if that's helpful to you.
I think that sounds good. Thanks, Fleur.
Okay, cool. Okay, so yeah, just referring to that conservation plan with the comments that I'll give you today. But essentially, the plan really provides us with a really good basis for our decision making around both the use and any possible change to the building itself. And the presentation that was given this morning did show that there was the potential to perhaps go back to the original design of the women's rest. And so I can give you some comments on that in relation to what the conservation plan guides us with. So in terms of the use of the building, obviously it's a utilitarian war memorial. So as such, it provides both a commemorative purpose and also a community function. And that original purpose or original community function was a social facility for women and mothers who are carrying out their duties in the town centre and needing a rest. So when we look at what is the appropriate use of that building, The conservation plan in page 27 states that it requires an appropriate new use which reflects its social, cultural, historical, technological and commemorative significance. So when reflecting on that, you know, I think it's really important that we give a lot of thought as to what uses are appropriate, and that we're not, I guess, too hasty to rush to a decision on that matter. So yeah, so I guess that's, you know, that's some work that we can do in the background to provide to you at a future date. In terms of the changes to the original design, the conservation plan provides us with some guidance on that as well. And so let me just flick through the appropriate parts of the plan. So the recommendation of that plan is that we adopt the ICOMOS Charter, which states that conservation, which is item 5, conservation recognises the evidence of time and the contributions of all periods. The conservation of a place should identify and respect all aspects of its cultural heritage value without unwarranted emphasis on any one value at the expense of others. So given this and the fact that post the earthquake, the work that was undertaken was really important in terms of its technological value around bringing in the earthquake strengthening technology at the time, we can't disregard the later rebuild as not having any heritage value. So it's really important that before we make any decision to alter that building, that we seek advice from a conservation architect as to whether that would impact on its cultural, its heritage values. So yeah, so those are kind of my main comments around the heritage values. But yeah, certainly it requires a little bit more in-depth thought around how this proposal could impact on the heritage values of that building.
Thank you, Fleur. Steph, do you have further comment there? And then we have Councillor Wright.
Yeah, so thank you, Deputy Mayor. Back to Her Worship's question to round that one out. I think the most logical step for us would be to receive a formal proposal from the Art Deco Trust, and then we can bring a paper back to Council based on, you know, those legal engagement, feasibility and actual financial implications as well. So I think if that is Council's will, that would be a great next step for us to receive. Thank you.
Thank you. And just Councillor Wright, sorry, before I move on, Jeremy, that idea of bringing a formal proposal to Council staff so that we can work through a paper to Council and address those matters, is that something that you, I'm just thinking around timeframes, if we were to refer this to a future committee for paper, what sort of timeframes would we be looking at your end to kind of get that proposal through?
I suppose to initially first understand what would be required within that paper. Timeframe would then depend on what sort of additional information you would require. Taking in Fleur's point, there's a full conservation report to currently kind of read, so you can make some sort of assessments as to what that would look like. A month, the next meeting.
Thank you for an indication. That's helpful. Councillor Wright.
My question was, has the Trust seen the conservation report? And I think from Jeremy's comment, you haven't seen it.
We have received it.
You have received it. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, are there any further thoughts there? I have a comment from Richard Miniker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just think it's probably helpful if, in the first instance, I think if Fleur would work with Jeremy to kind of give the scope of the things that are required and that will probably give us a better indication of the time frame to come back. So I think there needs to be a little bit of collaboration between our officers and Jeremy, just to be able to scope what is required going forward.
Chief Executive, Steve.
Thank you. So just reiterating through you, Deputy Mayor, that we will, and to Jeremy, we will of course work with you to undertake that formal proposal in a timely manner. Essentially to the Director of Strategy's comments, I think that's the next stage where we can work through the steps that need to be required. I guess what I'm after is that sort of formal proposal. So we'll work with Jeremy to get that back as quick as we can. I think we've heard today a lot of detail about what the proposal would entail. So it's just a matter of putting it on paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. Councillor Bogue.
Just a reminder, we did put, I think, $1.1 million in our LTP for this building, and I'll be interested to see how this is possibly going to be accessed or utilised and for what. And I expect this will be looked at in the paper that we will see.
Thank you, Councillor Bogue. Councillor Wright.
Well, just kind of a summing up, I guess from a governance perspective, the comments have been around how can we expedite this and make it happen when we have a group of passionate people in our community who are keen and ready to come on board and do something that's going to be really exciting and beneficial for our community and for that space and activate that end of town. There's a lot of positives here, and so I guess I guess the message that we want to send to staff is that we're really, as a governance body, a group of people are excited about this and just want to, within the rules, of course, but make this happen for our community as soon as is possible. And if that can be done, then yeah, I think we'll all be just really happy. So thanks.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, and through the chair, yes, firstly, fully endorse everything that Councillor Wright has said. And just a slight correction to Councillor Bogue, it's 1.5 million that we have in the long-term plan for this project. But I also just want to acknowledge the Chief Executive's comments that she made earlier, and the recognition there that this is something that would be really good to progress as swiftly as possible, and putting it on the table that we will work alongside the Trust to assist them in terms of pulling together a formal proposal to come to us. And I also just wanted to highlight that we do at the moment have an opportunity to make an application to the Tourism Infrastructure Fund, and based on a very brief conversation, there may be an opportunity for this particular project to access those funds. So I'd also like just council officers to explore whether this project may meet the criteria, and we may be able to retain some external funding via that Tourism Infrastructure Fund. But I think, absolutely elected members are very much on the same page with regards to this project and trying to work alongside the Art Deco Trust. And again, what I've heard from the Chief Executive today is that she's supportive of that as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think you and Councillor Wright have kind of summed up really well, I think, the discussion here, which is that kind of general level of support for the concept, and the Trust taking the lead where possible within the rules. So just support those comments from yourselves. Before I carry on, I've got a comment there from our Chief Executive.
Just for the record, please, Deputy Mayor, the 1.5 million was made up of $750,000 of council funding and externally raised funding. So we'll bring all of this detail back, but just for the record today. Thank you.
Thank you, that's really helpful. And I would just, as part of the discussion, like to really note that I think all of the support that the Trust has received from, the National Council of Women and the Hiratonga Women's Centre, the RSA is pending their membership discussions, Historic Places, Hawke's Bay, etc., all the neighbouring businesses. I think that that really reflects as well what Council's saying around that general level of support for the concept. So with a kind of show of hands, because we don't have a vote on this, I'd like to propose that we refer this to the next round of committee meetings. I won't name a committee just to give the staff a bit of flexibility for that, but that would be my recommendation, that we do that referral. So if we could all raise our hands in support of that or not, perfect. We have, I think, a unanimous referral there through to our next committee round to bring a paper to council or to committee, Jeremy, to let that proceed. So we'll. I think you've got a direction from governors there as well around an indication to work with staff and help that proposal get formalised through to us as well. So your key account manager will be Fleur, by the sounds of it.
Thank you very much. That's great to hear.
Thank you. And that brings our Future Napier Committee to a close. So we will, Councillor Price, I'll look to you for an indication, come back to you.
Okay, well, I'll reconvene the Sustainable Napier Committee meeting, and then I'll ask for a mover to go into public excluded.
Yeah.
Councillor Taylor.
Hold on, sorry, we just need to wait for John